Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a holiday 4th of July edition of As Good as It Gets. I'm Ricky Hampton with former Nets shooting guard Derrick Gervin. Man, hope everybody's enjoying the start of the holiday weekend. Happy 4th of July to everybody out there who are celebrating. Uh, July 1st, D. I mean, man, this summer is flying by, and in the National Basketball Association, I don't think I've ever seen a free agency period open up with so many stories as it did yesterday when it kicked off.
Well, I started off with a prayer. I asked the Lord. Hey, it's amazing the money that these guys are making, but I just hope that they can remember to give credit to the guys that paved the way for them. I'm happy to see these guys get paid. Hey, this is what the market is today, so I can't be mad at the guys. I have to applaud them.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's always been all relative. When you guys played, it was a lot of money for that generation, and the guys before you was good money for that generation. But it has now gone to extraordinary money, and I start here with Alonzo Ball, not Alonzo. I'm sorry, his brother LaMelo Ball in Charlotte signing for $260 million. I think it's over 5 years, which comes out to about $52 million a year, if my math is right.
That's right, on the nose.
$52 million a year. And this kid is just a very exciting player, man. He's a playmaker, a flashy entertainer. But I think when you're paying a guy that kind of money, you want to see some W's come with that too. Is he the kind of guy that Charlotte can build around and become a playoff contender in the East?
I believe they can become a playoff contender, but I don't think they can with Melo as the first option. I like LaMelo. He brings a lot of excitement to the game. He does a lot for the city of Charlotte. So I know they're happy to have him there. I do want to commend him for Charlotte, giving him this money. 5 years, $260 million. So he must have shown them some things that we might not see. So evidently they believe that he's capable of being that guy. But in my eyes, from what I've seen from Charlotte, they had him, and of course they had Kelly Oubre, and then LaMelo got hurt, so his year was kind of cut short. I still think they're one star. They need another star, a guy that maybe a wing player that can be that first option, and then Melo being Melo, being himself and creating for others, and then when he needs to score, he scores. But I definitely think they need a superstar, I would call him. I think Melo's a very good player, but I think they still need to add one more superstar. One superstar.
Yeah, I agree. And we're watching some of his highlights here. He is definitely a fun guy to watch on the court. He kind of reminds me of Jason Williams a little bit back in the day.
White chocolate.
White chocolate with his creativity passing the ball.
He's a really good player. I mean, he seems to have a good attitude. I haven't heard any rumblings of the organization about him being hard to coach or any of those kind of things. And we already heard a lot about him when his father was pubbing him. And I think he's lived up to the hype. So the 52 million is where we are today. That's what the market says. So I'm happy for the young man, but I'm sure he wants to win himself, and I'm sure he also would welcome another player comes in who could be that first option, and then it will make it easier on Melo, and I think it would take a lot of pressure off some of the other players as well.
And when you talk about the Ball brothers playing basketball, these have been guys who have really come in and just put their nose down and grinded away. Uh, it was the dad that was the boisterous one, but Alonzo just came out and played as well as he could and played well at times until he got hurt. It was really dad that made all the noise for these guys. These guys have really gone about their business in the NBA.
I'm a little sad. You mentioned Lonzo. I'm a big Lonzo fan. For me, I actually like him more than I like Melo. Just something about him, his disposition, man. The guy, to me, I think he's a winner. And it's kind of sad to me, Ricky, because I kind of, he might not be able to play again. And it breaks my heart to say that. I'm praying for the guy that he can come back and recuperate. I kind of started looking at Lonzo as a kind of a version of a Jason Kidd, as far as pushing the ball up the floor. He wasn't a very good shooter at first. He continued to work on his shot. He became a 40% guy from three-point range, just a hard worker. And, yeah, he had that Jason Kidd flash. So I'm hoping that he can come back. And if you look at it now, LiAngelo didn't make it, but I believe he'll get another opportunity. You got to give the dad some credit. LeVar was on his game, and a lot of people laughed at him, but now he's the one doing the laughing, and it's good to see.
He said his boys could ball, and he did not lie. He did not lie about that.
They good.
They've done it all the way
to
the bank.
Hey, Ricky, but you notice the biggest thing? They are well-behaved guys. And that's a breath of fresh air. So, it's not just what your skill set is as far as your basketball. It's also they're starting to clamp down on behavior as well. So the easiest way to get paid is to go out and continue to work on your craft and behave. When you behave, guys will believe in you. Organizations will believe in you, and they don't mind putting that money out there for you.
Yeah. Hey, let's get to some of these other signings. I'm gonna throw one out there and then get your thoughts on his signing, and then I want to hear some of the signings that really caught your eye. And one that stood out to me was Fred VanVleet leaving Toronto to go to where is he going?
Houston?
Yeah, going to Houston. Leaving he was an important part of their championship run there, but he's heading to Houston. Got a nice contract going there. Your thoughts on VanVleet to Houston?
I'm a little sad about it because I wanted him to see him down the road about 3 hours away, called San Antonio. But I'm really, really happy for Fred VanVleet. And it's amazing, Ricky, because this past season was really his worst season in the last 4, 5, 6 years. But he continued to grind. He didn't play up to his expectations. But Houston believes in him. They believe that he'll have a comeback year next year. I think it was great for them to pay him 43-point-something million a year. He's getting paid more than Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
But I have to say he's earned it. And once again, it goes back. He's another guy that you've never heard anything about as far as being a head case or anything, hard to coach. So I'm ecstatic for Fred VanVleet. I don't know him personally, but oh man, he broke the bank, and I'm glad to see it.
Yeah, 3 years, $130 million, and he was not drafted.
The highest paid ever, not drafted, $43.3 million a year. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. That tells me Houston is looking to make a run for the playoffs in the West next year. We'll see how that turns out. There are plenty of other signings we could talk about. What stands out in your mind, Derrick?
For me, the one that stands out because this is the team that everybody was talking about early in the year last season. Kyrie re-signing with Dallas Mavericks for the 3 years, $126 million. Now we know the issue, what's going to happen with Kyrie. So, that was in the media a lot. What was going to happen between Kyrie, what was going to happen to Dame Lillard. So they went ahead. Kyrie decided to take the smart deal, which was with the team that could pay him the most. And it's also with a team, with an owner that believes in him. I believe Mark Cuban really, really, really went out of his way to try to do everything he could to make Kyrie happy. And now you're seeing Kyrie being rewarded. And I think the reason he was rewarded is because when Kyrie got there, I know he only played 11 games or 12 games or something like that. But when he played, we didn't hear any rumblings about Kyrie causing any kind of problems in the locker room or anywhere else. And I think Mark Cuban is betting on him, and I'm happy for Kyrie. Now we know where he's going to be for the next 3 years.
Yeah, were you surprised by that, D? Because he met with several teams, and there were talks of him maybe trying to reunite with LeBron. Were you surprised that he went back to Dallas?
No, honestly, I'm not. I never took the LA thing serious, not even one time. I always kept looking at the contract, and Kyrie is in this for money as well as to be a superstar, but the money is a big factor. And they were the team that could pay him the most money by far. So I think he made a good decision. We don't even know how many more years he wants to play in the league. So 3 years gives him a chance to figure everything out. My only question would be, will Luka and Kyrie be able to kind of play a little different than they played last season? Both of them learned to play a little more off the ball. Kyrie does that a little better than Luka, and I'm hoping that Luka will buy in. But they've made some moves to upgrade their team. We still got to see what's going to happen. We know it's early. But, yeah, I think Dallas is on the way up, and signing Kyrie is definitely not a negative.
Hey, here's two that surprised me. Not really surprised me. I thought maybe the Bucks might look to upgrade from Middleton, considering his injury history of late, but they also re-signed Brook Lopez. So you got Middleton and Lopez re-upping with the Bucks, and it looks like they're gonna try to go back after with basically the same team that helped them, that won it a couple of years ago.
First I'm going to say congratulations, Chris Middleton, getting $40 million a year, coming off of a couple of, basically for me, down seasons. He hasn't been the same player since he went over to help our Olympic team. And so I guess Milwaukee's rewarding him for being there all these years. And he's another guy that doesn't act up in the locker room. He's been a total team player. Even when he was injured, he was still there supporting the team. And so I'm glad to see him get that money. On the other hand, Brook Lopez, I'm glad to see a decision made, because my understanding was on July 6th that he would be signing with the LA Lakers. So the last couple of days, I didn't hear anything about that, even though the Lakers got rid of Mo Bamba. So I thought maybe that might be the move that was going to be in play. But after I didn't hear much about it, I figured Brook might be re-signing. And I'm glad to see him in Milwaukee, because if you really look at it, Ricky, they played well last year. They ran into Miami. But as we know, Giannis was injured a few of those games. So I figure they think they're still good enough to try to run it back. And with the new coach, hopefully Adrian Griffin, get them playing under his style of ball. And I think they're going to be another contender. They're going to be a contender as usual. They still have Giannis Antetokounmpo. So as long as they have him, they're going to be a contender.
Yeah. Surprised D'Angelo Russell staying in L.A.?
Yeah, I'm surprised that he's staying at $37 million.
2 year, $37 million.
Yeah, and Ricky, you see, I remember these contracts. I'm not reading anything. It's just that I'm like, man, I was questioning the decision about D'Angelo Russell and Dennis Schroeder. I see Schroeder has re-signed to stay there.
Yeah.
And I guess they believed in their lineup. Of course, they've already made some upgrades. And I have to say this: if we were to go today, I know it's still early, but if we were to pick right off the bat like we did in October of last season, the Lakers would be my team I would have at the top right now, Ricky. They've made some great moves, and I got to give Rob Pelinka some credit.
Ahead of Denver?
Right now? Yes, because then we'll get to Denver, but they lost a guy by the name of Bruce Brown. We'll get to him shortly. Yes, right now the Lakers would be my top team in the West.
Wow, D. I don't see that one, but I didn't even see them getting in the playoffs, and you kept telling me they were. So
they're a good team, Ricky.
I'll take your word on that. Yeah, and speaking of Austin Reeves made him some money with that great playoff run. He signed a 4-year, $56 million deal in L.A. Russell Westbrook is remaining in L.A. with the Clippers, a 2-year, $8 million deal. Any thoughts on those?
Well, I'm a Clipper fan because of Kawhi Leonard, and I like Paul George. I can't say anything really bad because Russ played well at the end of the season when they brought him in. He did quite well. He actually was leading the team. And they didn't do too bad. So I'm only going to be positive. I think if Kawhi's healthy like they're saying, I know he had his knee scoped or cleaned out or whatever. So it's sounding like he'll be able to come back kind of like the closest he's been to being normal in quite some time. And when you add Russ and you still got Paul George, that's a good nucleus. Now it's just adding a few pieces around them. I think they're going to be a better team than last year, and I expect them to be a lot healthier with PG and Kawhi. So I want to wish Russ well, and at least it wasn't big money, but we know Russ is financially secure, so it does give him a chance to get him a championship. He has 2 years to do his thing, and I'm happy to see that.
Hey, and I think this is big news that's really kind of been covered up. I mean, it's been news, but if he'd have said it a month ago, it would have been a really, really big news. Is Damian Lillard has officially decided he wants to be traded from Portland. Now, he helps any team he goes to, but what do you think is the best possible destination for him?
Well, I've been saying since May, the perfect team is only one team. I only named one team. It was the Miami Heat. I didn't even think about another team. Just me watching the way he plays and then watching the way the Heat plays. As they were playing early in the playoffs, I kept looking and I was like, man, what are they missing? And then I said, well, I know exactly what they're missing. They're missing a big man for one that could play the center position so they could move Bam over to his natural position, the power forward. And they were missing that guy that is the clutch guy. I love Jimmy Butler, but I see Jimmy Butler as a second option. I see Dame Lillard as a superstar. And as we know the name, Dame time. So for me, the Miami Heat to get back to the finals next year, I think Dame would be the piece they need. Perfect complement to that team.
But man, what would you have to give up to get him, D?
Well, you got to give up Tyler Hero and whatever I have to give up. I mean, you looked at the team that they have, they would probably have to give up. I see Strus just signed a new contract, but that doesn't mean he won't be in the trade. So they would have to probably give up. I'm sure they would want Tyler Hero, probably Strus, who's another shooter. They have Gabe Vincent. I mean, they have options. To me, the obvious move would be Gabe Vincent since he's the point guard. But whatever you have to do at this point,
LA. Then Vincent just signed with LA.
Yeah, he's gone. You're right, and you're sure right about that. So yeah. So that only tells me they thinking like me. It's one guy, and the name is Damian Lillard. I think he fits perfectly with Bam Adebayo and Jimmy, but he also fits the culture of the Miami Heat. And I think he would be a welcome addition for Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra. I think the perfect guy. Miami, here he comes.
I mean, as we watch some of his highlights, his range is just extraordinary, D. I mean, yeah, can you imagine your old coach Bill Fitch watching him shoot from way out there?
Well, Bill Fitch did watch a guy shoot way out there by the name of Drazen Petrovic.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But Dame, though, Ricky, I mean, if you look at it, he's just the ultimate competitor. There's only 3 guys in the league that can shoot from where he shoots from. That's Dame, that's Trae Young, and that's Steph Curry. So that there tells you how special he is. And Dame can do it off the dribble. He can do it off the catch. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I want to see him get rewarded with an opportunity to win a championship. So I'm glad he finally came out of his comfort zone and decided to move on.
Yeah. You're watching As Good as It Gets with former Nets shooting guard Derrick Gervin. I'm Ricky Hampton. Hope everybody's having a great start to the holiday weekend. We're talking NBA free agency. There was a lot of NBA trades that went down last week. Just a lot of movement, Derrick. And do you think this is because even though Denver won and they were clearly the best team, that a lot of teams think that with the right moves, they can put their franchise in position to win a NBA title? It seems to me like more teams think they have a chance now than in the past.
It's kind of funny because if you look at it, there are a few teams that are like trying to stack their teams. We always talk about super teams. And then you got some other teams that are on the come up, that are on their way up, that are going more towards the young people, role players. So if you look at Denver's team, they had Jokic, who's a superstar. I call Jamal Murray a star, not a superstar. But if you look at it, a lot of their role players were the difference. It wasn't just Jokic. All the role players made timely plays. And I think that's what a lot of teams are looking at now. They're looking at the youth and guys that can just play together. You got to fit together like a glove. And so I don't think there's a few teams that are still trying to do the super team like Phoenix and a couple others. But overall, I think you're going to see a lot more role players get their credit. And if you notice, Ricky, a lot of these role players are getting signed quickly. Patrick Beverly's gone. We saw Chris Paul go. Guys are getting the opportunity to go to other teams. And it's not because they're superstars. It's because they bring that team play that these teams are looking for. And if you look at it, Denver was the best team as far as moving the ball and everyone buying in. So we're seeing more of that now.
Speaking of role players, D, here's one right here who has been critical to the success of the Golden State Warriors, Draymond Green, who re-upped with the Warriors for $100 million. And he really speaks to what you were just saying. He's a guy, he's not going to score a lot of points. He's going to guard people, defend, make timely plays. He might be the ultimate role player in the NBA today.
There's no Mike to it. You being nice saying Mike. I'm not a big Draymond fan with his theatrics, but as a player, oh boy. We haven't seen a player like him in years, Ricky, that can guard. Now, they say guys can guard 1 through 5 and all that, but a lot of times they're exaggerating. But this is a guy that actually can guard 1 through 5, and we've seen him do it. I saw him guard De'Aaron Fox with the game on the line. And he actually made De'Aaron Fox pass up a shot that he should have been taking just because Draymond was on him. So the Golden State is not Golden State without Draymond Green. A lot of people started saying Andrew Wiggins had become their second most important player, but I didn't never agree with that. I don't think Clay is their second most important. Draymond is that guy. He's the engine. And he's the guy that makes it easier for Steph. He's the guy that makes it easier for Clay. And so you have to sign him. If you really look at it, the contract that he signed wasn't really a big contract. I thought he would get about $5 or $6 million more per year. So he wanted to stay in Golden State, and I'm glad they were able to keep him. And I think that also keeps Golden State in contention moving forward.
Speaking of Golden State, they also have acquired a pretty good player. Will be going to the Hall of Fame one day, Chris Paul. How do you see Paul fitting into that team?
I think it's great because you already know I'm a big Chris Paul fan, and I write about him all the time. I'm happy because now this takes a lot of pressure off him, and I hope people hear me clearly. This was an excellent move because now you only need Chris Paul as opposed to playing maybe 35 to 40 minutes in Phoenix. You only need him for 20 or 25 minutes in Golden State. And we know that the guy they call him the point guard for a reason. So when you put him with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond, that makes them a very formidable team. All they have to do is keep adding a few supporting pieces. I know DiVincenzo is gone. I believe Patrick Baldwin Jr. is gone. We know Poole is gone. So they'll plug in those spots and bring in some pretty good role players. And once again, we'll be having Golden State as one of the top teams to come out of the Western Conference.
I'm just trying to. It's so many people to talk about. I'm just trying to get to all of them. James Harden has decided to opt in Philly, which came as a surprise. But that doesn't mean he won't be traded. Do you think Harden will be in a Sixers uniform when training camp opens?
No, wow. He might be there with training camp. No, I'm gonna say he's not gonna be there. They're gonna take care, get that. He won't be there. He will not be a Philadelphia 76er next year. I guarantee that. Now, when they'll move him is gonna take us some time because they're gonna try to get everything they can for him. A lot of people think him opting in means that he was staying. And if they really look at it and go over it and look at all the paperwork, him opting in, to me, it meant that he was leaving. And so he will be with another team. I guarantee he'll be with another team. Where is the question? I've heard the Knicks. I've heard some teams come up. So he'll be somewhere else. He will not be a Philadelphia 76er.
I heard the Clippers were a possibility.
Well, that's another good possibility.
But you do a great job of breaking down how guys fit into other teams. Where would he be a optimal fit?
He would fit with the Clippers, Ricky. I think he would. But the only person would probably have a problem with that would be Russ, because that will put Russ back on the bench. And these guys have a history together. Oklahoma City, we can go way back. So they're familiar with each other. But I think he fits well I think he could help the Knicks. He could be that two guard, which he don't have to without the 30 dribbles, because they have Jalen Brunson. There's several teams that he could help. They were talking about Houston, but we know that's not going to happen now with them bringing in Van Vliet. So there's several teams that contending teams that he could help. Boston Celtics is another team. So it's just a matter of James deciding what James wants to do. He has to stop trying to be the 30-point scorer. That guy's gone. And he just has to be the guy that did basically what he did this year. 21-10 is what I thought was an excellent year for him. So I believe another contending team will definitely give up some pieces and draft picks to get James Harden. But I haven't figured out. I have no clue right now what team, but he fits several teams.
Hey, speaking of the Celtics, they made a big move. They traded Marcus Smart. They acquired Kristaps Porzingis, and he signed a $60 million extension, $30 million a year, $2 million 2-year extension. What does he give the Celtics, and how do you like that deal?
I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it because it gives them another shooter who he can also rebound. He's not a he's not a great rebounder, but he's not a bad one. He can get you 8 to 10 rebounds a game, but he can shoot the ball. He can flat out shoot the ball, and so that opens it up the floor. That opens up the floor more for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to do their thing. But the question is now, will he play the 4? What position will he play? Because they still have Robert Williams there. But it's definitely, I think, an upgrade. As you know, shooting, there's a premium on shooting right now. And when you got a 7-footer that can shoot the ball, that's nothing but an asset. And he's also a pretty good rim protector. People don't talk about his defense a lot, but he's not a bad defender. He's not bad at all. So, I mean, I think it's a good move for the Celtics.
So Brogdon becomes your point guard now?
He should have been the point guard last year, Ricky. I don't know what Joe Mazzulla was thinking about. I thought when they brought him in that he would immediately become the 1. And that's why I didn't pick Boston to win last year. I thought that he should have been the 1 and that Marcus Smart should have been the 2. And you could play Jaylen Brown at the 3 and Tatum at the 4. Because remember, they go a lot of small ball today. It's not like you playing against Shaq and David Robinson. So you can switch your lineups up and you can have different lineups. So, yeah, I think Brogdon is the guy. Of course, we know he has to get healthy. I believe he hurt his elbow or something last year in the playoffs. So, for me, no doubt, going into the season, he is definitely their number 1 point guard, I would say. And I hope you're listening, Joe Mazzulla. The guy's a really good point guard.
What are your thoughts? Are you a Marcus Smart fan? Does he really? I'm sure I know you respect him as a player and all that, but I never thought he was a point guard, and I don't think he's a 2 guard. But I think he's a good player.
Well, today you could play. Yeah, you could put him on the floor. So yeah, I'm with you. Whether he's a 1, 2, 3, you could put him on the floor. For me, I've been watching him for years. He played at Oklahoma State, so I watched him, play against the Longhorns, Texas, and all those teams. So I got to watch him during his college career. He's a smaller. For me, he kind of reminds me of Draymond, Ricky. He does everything on the defensive end. He's their vocal leader. He's a guy that's not afraid to get on Tatum and Brown, kind of like Draymond with Steph and Clay. And you need that guy. I think that's going to be their biggest loss. I'm surprised they got rid of him because of the toughness that he brings. But I really, really believe, and I mentioned to you before, I saw him try to check himself in the game in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I told you about it. Joe Mazzulla looked at him like he was crazy. And at that moment, I said Marcus Smart will not be a Celtic next year. And I wrote on Facebook that this was the end of the threesome of Tatum, Brown, and Smart. And as we see, that's what ended up happening. So he ended up being moved. But I think he wasn't too happy about it, but he'll get used to it. And I still think it hurts the Celtics because they lose that toughness.
And just an hour into free agency, there were $1 billion handed out in contracts yesterday. 1 hour into free agency, $1 billion in contracts, worth of contracts.
Rich Paul. Paul is part of that, Ricky. Hey, Ricky, you know the guy we didn't bring up that I should have brought up? Oh, boy. Memphis. Let's go to Memphis.
Okay.
We know Josh suspended 25 games, so we know that. We know Dylan Brooks has just re-signed or moved to another team.
Yeah.
So there's one guy in the backcourt that averaged 20 points that people don't talk about a lot. Desmond Bane.
Yeah.
Desmond Bane was just paid like he was the number 1 option on the Memphis Grizzlies. I believe he's getting $42 million a year. And so that, to me, that surprised me. I thought he would be more in the $28 to $30 million range. But to see Memphis go all out and pay him that kind of money tells me they're still kind of skeptical about what's going to happen with Ja, but I'm going to be happy for Desmond Bain and the Memphis Grizzlies. They also added Marcus Smart. So they're a team that's continuing to try to get better.
Yeah, 5 years, $207 million for Desmond Bain. I mean,
$41.4 million a year.
Damn. I mean, it is crazy the money that is being paid out in this league. They're just absolutely nuts. And Bain's a good player. All these guys are really good players in the NBA. But the kind of money, and hey, credit to the Players Association, to the agents out there, to the league for making that kind of money, sharing the wealth with the players. Oh gosh, it was another trade I was going to ask you about. Oh, I know the one. We hadn't been on the air since the Bradley Beal trade went down. Your thoughts on Bradley Beal going to Phoenix from Washington?
Oh boy, as far as scoring, I think it's a good move. But my question is, who's going to play that point guard role now that Chris Paul is gone? I know they're not going to use Cameron Payne as a starting point guard. And on the negative side, I don't see Bradley Beal or Devin Booker being point guards. So that's the only question I would have. But that's a big question. Who's going to be a ball handler over the course of 82 games? I think as they're currently constructed, they're going to be a good team, but they're going to be a team that's not going to go very far because who's going to be the guy that runs everything, that leader on the floor? I know they have KD. I know they have Booker, but they need a point guard, just like the guy they lost, Chris Paul. So they have to find a guy that's capable of having that ball in his hands for 35 minutes and setting up Bill and KD and Booker so that they can be the best version of themselves. With Booker and Bill handling the ball, I don't think they could be the best versions of themselves. So I still say they're going to make moves moving forward to acquire a point guard.
And especially that transition going from Paul, who always made the right decisions. I mean, he was like a maestro out there. So now you got to replace that with somebody that will be interesting. Another guy that got paid, Kyle Kuzma, 4 years, $102 million to the Wizards. Another one I want. Hey, this guy's a really good basketball player, and people in India are going to love Bruce Brown, former Piston, world champion now with the Nuggets. He got a 2-year, $45 million deal with the Pacers. And one more, and I'll get your comments on some of these. Jeremy Grant is staying in Portland, $160 million deal, 5 years.
Well, let me go. Jeremy Grant.
He signed that before
Dame made his decision. Yeah, I know. So I'll let the fans the listeners do the math. He signed, and Dame still decided to leave. I'm happy for Jeremy Grant. Man, I never saw that coming, $160 million. But he's another guy that's been consistent. Jeremy Grant kind of reminds me, I won't say necessarily on that level, but he kind of like a Pascal Siakam type guy. And so I would he's a 3-and-D guy. And he can knock down the occasional open three-pointer. So, it's a good move. But it just tells me that by signing him that long-term deal, that Portland is not trying to win right away. And them going out and getting Scoot also proved that to me. So I'm glad he got the $130 million or whatever, but I don't think that helps Portland as far as being a contending team. I think they're going to end up a team that's on the bubble again or maybe a play-in team, but that's about as far as I see them going.
Yeah, I can dig it. I can dig Damian wanting to get out of there, man, because just like when McCollum was there, it just was not good enough. Having those,
it didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work.
Hey, Ricky, did you notice I tried to skip over to Bruce Brown so I don't cry?
Where did you want to see him go?
I wanted to stay in Denver. I picked them to win it last year early in the preseason. Remember, I picked them because of the addition of Bruce Brown and KCP. That's what made me think they were going to be the team to win. And now he's gone, but I can't be mad at him for leaving. They gave him $22.5 million. So I'm very, very happy for Bruce Brown. But my question now for Denver is, that tells me it's not even a question. That tells me they believe a lot in Christian Brown. So they get rid of Bruce Brown. And now it's time for Christian Brown to step in. But on the Bruce Brown side, I'm very happy for him to be given an opportunity to have some financial security for himself and his family. So I'm happy to see him go and do what's best for his career.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. We got to grant Cam Johnson $108 million, 4 years to stay in New York and Brooklyn with the
wow.
Karis LeVert, 2 years, $32 million with the Cavs.
Torian Prince, Ricky, let me mention the San Antonian. The Lakers acquired Warren High School. I did a camp after COVID. I did a camp with Torian Prince here in San Antonio at his former high school. So I got to give a shout out. I'm happy for him. I know his mom and his dad and the sister. So I'm very happy to see him get an opportunity to win and to do it in Hollywood with the LA Lakers. I'm very, very happy for him. Congratulations, Torian.
Yeah, and he's a good, solid NBA player too. That'll be a good addition for them. The Knicks traded Toppin to
Obi to Indiana.
Yeah, I thought Toppin had some good moments for them last year. He was the number
Ricky,
8 overall pick in 2020. Yeah, go ahead.
Before you and I came on the air, 5 minutes before we came on the air, I was on Messenger with a gentleman from New York. Mac, I hope you're listening. And we talked about the New York Knicks and Obi Toppin and Julius Randle. And Mac he's high on Obi Toppin, and I am as well. But I just didn't think it worked with the Knicks. They have plans. Julius Randle is Tom Thibodeau's guy. And so that took away a lot of the minutes for Obi Toppin. I think now Obi going to Indiana, playing under my former assistant coach, is a great move. I think Rick Carlisle will give him a chance to get out on the open floor. And if you look at the lineup that Indiana has put together, they got Mathurin coming back for his second year. They just signed Tyrese Halliburton, who we didn't mention, to a huge deal. So I think that's a great move for Obi Toppin, and the Indiana Pacers are on the way up.
Man, how about Dante DiVincenzo getting a 4-year, $50 million deal in New York? Wow.
Well, they needed a shooter.
Yeah.
They needed a shooter. Hey, Ricky, if you in the right, all you got to do is show. If you like DiVincenzo showed throughout the season, he was a solid player for Golden State. So anytime you play for a team that's the current champion and you go out and show that you belong, there are teams that are willing to take a chance on you. And for DiVincenzo, I think it's a great move. I think Tom Thibodeau is happy to have him. And I think the city of New York will be happy to have him. He's a guy that can knock down shots, and he's really not a bad defender.
Yeah. Hey, let's go back and just kind of give the draft a quick review. Of course, down where you are in San Antonio, Victor Wembanyama went number 1, and he was, hands down the number 1 pick. But anybody else? Is there anybody we should keep our eyes out for down the as we get into the draft, first, second round?
I'll go to the 20th pick. I'm gonna say for me, Cam Whitmore is the guy in this draft for me because he was projected to be a top 5 guy.
Yeah.
But I heard some health issues came up. At one time, people were saying that some of the interviews didn't go so great. But my understanding it was that he had some health issues that were concerns for a few teams. So anytime a guy is having health issues right away, they become one of my favorites, a guy that I'm going to root for and cheer for. And I want to see him come out and maximize his ability and be the guy that they expected when they first started projecting him as a top 5 pick. So that would be one guy. And then I got to get on my Detroit Pistons. They're already being negative. They have one of the All-Star, if you say it with an S-A-R, All-Star Thompson. A lot of people have been getting hard. They've been hard on him. And I'm going to say this to my Detroiters. The guy is only 18, 19 years old. He's just coming into the NBA. He hasn't even got his feet wet yet. You have to give these guys an opportunity. This is for all the rookies, including Victor Wembanyama. This is a different time. These guys are coming in now at 17 or 18, 19 years old, and some of them aren't going to be prepared right away. So you have to take your lumps sometimes. That's what this league is about. So I'm saying all of these guys in the draft, don't be too hard on them. Give them an opportunity first to see if they're going to swim, if they can swim. And if then they can't swim, then you start talking about them. But right now, I say give these guys an opportunity. You're going to be surprised. There are going to be some really, really good players that are going to come out of this draft.
Hey, do you think the leagues like the overtime league, the G League, where these guys are just going straight to the professional ranks in some form or fashion, is paying off? You know, and I think we may have talked about it last week. For only 4 of the top 10 picks were college players.
Yeah, that's sad. A lot of guys that were player of the year in college didn't even get drafted. Last year, the gentleman from Kansas. This year, big Edie from Purdue.
Well,
there were 4 guys, I believe.
Edie went back. Because he knew he wasn't.
Because he knew he wasn't. Because he wasn't projected to go very high, and he's about 7'4". So the game it's a different game. What I think the G League is good for are the perimeter players, Ricky. I don't think it's a league for the big men because if you look at it, we talked about James Wiseman. There are no Giannis Antetokounmpos and Nikola Jokic's in the G League, but there are guys that can handle the ball and go off the dribble and things like that. So I think it's great for the younger players that are coming in, like a Scoot Henderson. It kind of gets them somewhat prepared for what they're going to encounter in the NBA. But as you know, it's nothing like going through the fire with the real NBA, the veterans. I think it's a good preparation, but they still have a lot that they're going to have to learn once they get to the NBA and get to these summer league teams with these coaches they're going to be dealing with.
I was going to ask you about the summer leagues, which will be starting up next week.
Monday.
How important are the summer leagues? A lot different than when you played, but it was important when you played. That's really how you made your way onto the Nets roster, right? Which you're playing in the summer.
Yes.
In the summer league. What would be your advice to some of these rookies going in the summer league and some of these guys in their second, third year trying to make a roster going into the summer league?
You just have to give it your all. The big difference, Ricky, is when I played, the veterans didn't even think about going to the summer league and playing. And some of the second and third year players weren't required to play in the summer league. They didn't have to do that. But now, if you look at it, the summer league has become very important. They basically want you working on your game every day, working on your ball handling skills. I wish they would focus more on basketball IQ so that we can have an American that's going to win the MVP soon. But yeah, the summer league has become very, very important, even for guys like Victor Wembanyama, even though he'll probably only play a game or two. Scoot Henderson will play a few games. But for guys after Brandon Miller, so from that fourth spot on down, is very, very important because these guys still have to win over these teams. A lot of these teams drafted these players, but they still have a lot of questions about these players. And one way to silence the doubters is to go out and play in the summer league, play well, and just give it your all. Just do the best you can and be the best version of yourself.
Yeah. Is there anybody you looking forward to making the jump from their first year to second year, or just off the top of your head?
Yes, right here in San Antonio, the big fella. And I have to say this because, a lot of people might disagree with me or not liking me say it. But as you know, they were saying that Victor was like the most coveted guy coming in the pros of all time, Ricky. I think that's ludicrous. And the reason I think that's ludicrous is because when you had guys like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar come in, you had guys like Tim Duncan, a guy by the name of LeBron James. There were no questions about where those guys are going to be successful NBA players. I'm down here in San Antonio, and the closer it gets to the summer league and all that, the more questions I have about how Victor Wembanyama how he's going to fare in his first year in the league and his second year. So that would be my biggest question mark would be the big fella. I've heard all the great things about him, but he was playing in France. And as we know, France is nothing like playing in the NBA. The good thing I will say is he played for Tony Parker, and he gets to be mentored by Tony and Manu and David Robinson and Tim Duncan. But yeah, I still have questions about Big Victor, how well he's gonna deal with the physicality and just the NBA game in general.
So as we watch these summer league games next week, should we temper ourselves that okay, guy has a bad game, it's okay. And if he has a great game, it doesn't mean he's the next Dr. J.
Well, people have a basketball eye. You can tell the difference between a guy having a bad game and a guy that just doesn't measure up. Yeah. So that would be the question. Now, a lot of these guys, as we know, everybody in this draft is not going to make it, and that includes even some of the lower first round guys. So you can't go basically off of one or two games, but this will be a projection and tell you what kind of careers some of these younger guys will have. It's going to take some of them. You have to remember this. Some guys will be ready like their first year. Like I think Scoot Henderson is ready now. He's game ready. I think he's physically ready. I think he's mentally ready. Brandon Miller, the second pick, I'm sorry. He ended up going second. I think he's ready body-wise, but I still have concerns about him mentally. So there's going to be a lot that's going to be found out about all these guys from number 1 all the way down to the 58th pick. They all have something to prove. This summer league is just not mess around time. It's show what you can do time, and you're trying to secure your future. So it's very important for all of these guys.
Hey, you know a guy that has not signed yet and can score, can block a few shots?
Trae Young.
Well, another guy, Christian Wood.
Well, yeah, well, there's another, yeah. No, Christian Wood. Oh, boy. Well, Miami Heat.
Relatively cheap. I mean, because nothing is cheap, clearly. Nothing is cheap nowadays.
Ricky, look, Miami Heat. Christian Wood and Dame Lillard. Makes them a very good team, a formidable team. And I feel so bad for Christian Wood, Ricky, because I think he got a bad rap when he went to Houston. He had some problems, an incident with Kevin Porter Jr., and I think some people have held that against him forever. But he's a guy that I like. I don't think Jason Kidd utilized him correctly. I'm hoping that the team that brings him in will give him an opportunity to showcase his skills. I believe he's a 20-point guy and a 10-rebound guy in the NBA if just given the opportunity. And I'm just hoping that someone will give him the opportunity to really showcase and show what he can do. I'm very high on Christian Wood.
Yeah. Hey, just a couple of more things here, D. And I meant to bring this up earlier when we were talking about Damian Lillard. I read a piece where the writer thought that the Blazers should have traded Damian a couple of years ago, that they just waited too long holding on to him.
That could be true. They could have got more value than they're going to get, I believe, this year. So, but in hindsight, I mean, you never know. I don't think they're going to get a lot back in return. But maybe they should have traded him a couple of years ago. But as we know, it didn't happen. So we have to go what is, and what is they're going to be moving him now. And so just hopefully for them, they'll be able to get at least a decent package in return.
Yeah. Kobe Bryant in the Clippers.
Oh, that must be Mr. Captain asking about Kobe. Kobe Bryant with the Clippers. Let's talk about Kobe the next show.
And
go ahead, Ricky.
You talking about Tobias Harris coming to Detroit?
That might be possible. I've been hearing rumblings about Tobias possibly being moved, and I mean, if the Pistons have been making some moves. I don't know his relationship with Adrian Griffin. with Monty. I don't know what kind of relationship they have, but Monty's going to do whatever he can to put together a good team. And if you do, the reason I say they're not going to bring in Tobias is because if I'm correct, they just brought in another shooter to complement Bogdanovic.
Yep, they got it.
Say it again. That's the Harris that I expected them to get. I've heard about Tobias, but I don't see it happening. I think he's going to end up staying in Philly.
No, I think that's what Captain was talking about.
Joe Harris. Joe Harris. That's a good move, Cap. You got another shooter. So you got Bogdanovic on one side. You got Joe Harris on the other side. I think that makes the Pistons a lot better. All they have to do now is see what the big fella, their point guard, Cade, is going to look like when he comes back, because I'm sure he'll be 100%. And I'm happy because the Pistons are on their way up. And I expected that from the beginning when they acquired Monty Williams.
They really like Durant, and I like Durant too, and Ivy and Cade. Hopefully Cade comes back 100%. But man, I would not give up on Wiseman yet. He showed some flashes last year.
I like him, Ricky.
If you just get his,
you already know.
Throw him out there, man.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, throw him out there and let him play.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do with Marvin Bagley, but I like Wiseman. I think he fits perfectly with that team. Just let the man play. It's hard to tell what a guy can do if you're only going to give him 5 to 10 minutes. Sometimes it takes 30 minutes to see what a guy really can do. That's the same as a guy. Some guys are practice players and some guys are game players. Yeah. You got to come out of your comfort zone as a coach sometime. And I think Monty's will do that. And I think they'll give Wiseman a chance. You definitely don't trade him because his ceiling is huge.
Yeah. And what is he? He's still 22, 23 years old.
Yeah, he's a kid.
He's a kid. Hey, we're going to get out here. Thank you, Captain, for checking in. Thanks to all our viewers out there for checking in. And we'll
Ricky.
Yes, sir.
Can I say one quick thing before we get off?
Absolutely.
I want to wish this young man good luck. He ended up going the 49th pick. He used to be on Sports Illustrated as a 15-year-old and all that, but he didn't end up going to the 49th pick. I want to wish Imani Bates luck. I think he's a guy that will be one of the steals of the NBA draft, and I just want to see him finally get a chance to show people what he can do. So I want to say keep working hard, Imani. You're on your way.
Yeah, because it's not where you start. It's where you finish. And Imani went, let me see here. Imani went to Cleveland, not far from home. Cavaliers took him. So, yep, good luck to Imani Bates. Well, we're going to get out of here. Derrick Gervin, thank you. We'll see you next time. Until then, have a great holiday and be safe, everybody. Peace.
Ricky, I love you. Have a good night. Thank you,
Love you,
listeners. Have a great night. Stay safe.